Hey YouTubers, I'm here tonight for my scheduled broadcast regarding the corruption and the institutional scams that exist in New Jersey fire districts. And I'm going to wait till about the 2 or 3 minute mark before I dig into the meat and potatoes of the issue. But both myself and Gunnison Undercover have been provided with an excellent example of why NJ fire districts are a sham. And it's going to be good. It's going to be really good. Because now, rather than hearing me bloviate about abstract ideas and this and that, I have an example to back up everything that I've been saying. And Green Leader, hey, how are you doing, bud? How's the weather down in Folsom tonight? I mean, Atlantic County is a beautiful place in the fall. It's a beautiful place any time of year. Who am I kidding? We're almost at the 2 minute mark. Well, so I guess I'll start. In the state of New Jersey, depending on where you live, your property tax bill can be divided up into 9 different compartments or 9 different subdivisions. And I would like to talk to you tonight about what a fire district is and what it can do. Instead of your local township either funding fully or subsidizing a volunteer department, in the state of New Jersey, a lot of towns have opted to create fire districts. And what a fire district is it's a board of 5 to 7 commissioners who run for election like school board members. And a fire commissioner can impose and levy a tax, and they do, so that they can provide fire services to the municipality. The problem that arises with fire commissioners are, like school board members, like council members, it's all about quid pro quo, folks, okay? It's all about who knows who. It's a method of getting favors done and getting favors given back in return. And me and Gunnison and our new friend, another auditor, whose first name I'm not going to reveal on here as a courtesy to him, we went out on an audit and a fact-finding mission, because that's more accurate than just an audit. We didn't just go there just for an audit. We went to Englishtown, New Jersey, which is a small town that borders Manalapan Township in Monmouth County, on the outskirts, almost by East Brunswick. And we kind of felt things out, and we've noticed a certain type of institutional corruption that pervades local government. Everybody knows everybody. And in particular, there's this one family called the Cooks. The wife is a councilwoman, while her husband wears 3 or 4 hats in municipal government. The guy's police chief, he's OEM director, and lo and behold, what other title does he hold? He sits as an elected member of the Board of Fire Commissioners, folks. Okay? So in this little town, which is 1 square mile, they have a fire department which levies probably at least $750,000 to $800,000 a year from its taxpayers. All right. So right there, every house probably has to pay in between $800 and $900 a year to maintain their local fire department. I mean, that's craziness. All right. Gunnison, I know he's a major proponent of eliminating the Englishtown Police Department. I'm not. I see his point of view. In a way, I totally agree with it. But here's my point of view. My point of view is, in a town like Englishtown, if anything's going to get done away with right off the bat, their fire district will be eliminated, because there's a much stronger and persuasive argument and a much more pointed argument at dissolving the Englishtown Fire District. And that argument would go like this. Manalapan's Fire District 2 is less than 1 mile away from the Englishtown firehouse. All right. The number of fires in Englishtown per year are in the double digits, or at least fire calls. They're less than 100. All right. So their need for fire services is far less than their need for police services right off the bat. There's a wider array of potential for shared services as fire services are concerned. And in Englishtown's case, anybody just has to drive right through the town and make a left at the end of Main Street, and you can see this huge, almost out of place firehouse, which is can't be older than 9 or 10 years old, had to run the taxpayers at least $500,000 to $600,000 to build. And for what, folks? For what? I'll tell you for what. So people can so that the upper echelon of the fire department can get piss ass drunk at their Halloween parties and their Christmas parties, and they can make small talk. It's a social hall, folks. It has very little, if nothing, to do with the public safety of you and I. All right. So meanwhile, our tax dollars, $800 a year of Mrs. Smith's money, who she's an old lady on a fixed income, is going to run the Englishtown Fire Department, and it's ridiculous. I do want to pull up the financials here, and so I can show you that my point of view, I'm not bloviating, it's factually supported. So here I hit Google, Englishtown Fire District number 1. Ooh, what do we have? We have the financials for the department. Woo! So last year, they had 4 vendors that were paid over an amount of $17,500, which deems them a major vendor under state law. And the biggies that kind of stick out like a sore thumb are the first responder insurance premiums, just $80,000. Just 80 grand went to pay for their first responder insurance in case a guy gets hurt or injured on the job. How insane is that? 80 grand just so that they can keep their social club. Stavola Asphalt, $22,000. Okay, I can see the need for asphalt, but $22,000 for asphalt for a little firehouse? And Lincoln Financial, $34,000. I'm guessing they probably took out a loan. But the question goes to bear is this. We have 5 fire commissioners, right? And due to the lack of regulation or the lessened regulation that a board of freeholders has, or a town council, or a school board, there's a lot of ways for conflicts of interest to arise in a fire department. We know with the Englishtown Fire Company that their chairman of their board of commissioners is also their police chief. I mean, this town really is everybody knows everybody and everybody's sleeping with everybody. I mean, this guy is serving on the board of fire commissioners one moment, the next moment he's police chief, the next moment he's a councilman's husband, and the next moment he's OEM director. I mean, what gives, folks? All right. And I'm going to make a little prediction here. I can't prove this off the top of my head, but I'm going to say most likely that this isn't the only conflict of interest that you're going to find. All right. The fact that the guy's police chief and fire chief of Englishtown at the same time. I'm going to predict right now that, well, I don't have to predict it. They paid, the fire district used additional taxpayers' money to pay Englishtown borough $18,000 in calendar year 2017. How's that not a conflict? That he's giving the borough additional money to pay for its police services and everything else. This town is a mess, folks. Okay? These little towns are driving the state into a grave. Towns like this, where you have a police department you probably could do away with, you have a fire department you definitely could do away with, You have people being appointed, promoted, hired, rewarded, awarded simply because they're sleeping with other people in local government. This is a mess. The state of New Jersey needs to come in. They need to fully investigate the inner workings of Englishtown borough government, especially with a special emphasis on its fire district, because there's no reason why a town less than 1 square mile needs almost $1 million fire department. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And anybody that wants to argue facts and figures with me about how much the Englishtown Fire Department costs, well, let's put it this way, folks, okay? If they're going to spend just 70 grand on insurance premiums, then you can bet your bottom dollar that the taxpayers aren't getting off the hook with the fire department for under at least 750,000, 750,000. Okay. And even that's on the light side, all right, because it does not cost a cheap price to run those engines, to insure those engines. I mean, right now, from what I'm seeing, it isn't pretty. I mean, $21,000 just for asphalt to their parking lot. I'm gonna possibly talk to Gunnison and others in our group about holding a rally to discourage and encourage the dissolution of the Englishtown Fire Department. Because right now, this is where the beef is at. I know Gunnison much prefers to pick on police departments, and for different reasons. He feels that the Englishtown Police Department is a revenue-generating agency, and they're basically road pirates. I can't say the guy's wrong about that because he isn't wrong. But in the same token, there's a stronger argument based on the facts for temporarily retaining the police department and eliminating the fire company. Because right now, the Englishtown Fire Company, or rather to be proper, the Englishtown Fire District, is a big hole in the taxpayer's pocket. It's almost as big of a hole as the police department is. I mean, you want to get down to the nitty gritty. Okay, the police department has a $3.5 to $4 million budget. The fire department has a $1 million budget. At least the cops are being used for something. Okay, folks? At least Englishtown's cops are responding to calls. At least Englishtown's cops are going out there risking their lives. The Englishtown Fire District is a joke. It's beyond a joke. It's scary how they can justify spending $70,000 in insurance premiums for a fire department that serves less than 1 square mile, and then another $30,000 for what? Another $30K for asphalt in the parking lot? Come on, folks. Folsom lost our volunteer fire department. Now we have to wait for other towns to respond. You know something, Green Leader? If I was in charge in Folsom, I would have never agreed to that because it didn't make sense for Folsom to do away with its volunteer fire department. Glenn, I want to say hi. I'm glad that you could join us this evening. We got some really good stuff coming up in this next hour. But you have to look at the totality of circumstances when we throw around words like municipal consolidation and shared services. My biggest pet peeve with shared services is this. When towns start to share a service, whether or not it's a police department, a fire department, or a library or municipal court or public works department, what happens is this. You lose transparency. And if things ever reach the point where one town wants to do something different, or one town wants to change things up, or one town wants to back out of the agreement, you can't do that, folks. Because more times than not, you're contractually bound for an unspecified period of time or for a protracted period of time. I mean, look at the North Plainfield Watchung deal. I mean, North Plainfield and Watchung agreed to share their local court. All right? And when North Plainfield and Watchung shared their local court, Watchung's getting wonderful results out of it. They love it. I mean, they're saving money and they're making more money in profits than they did before. North Plainfield's taking the bath on that deal, folks. Green Leader, we didn't agree. They just dissolved the fire department. Well, what I'm thinking too, and this should go to show you, Green Leader, what a great example it is. of how expensive it is to maintain a volunteer department. It's not easy, folks, because volunteer fire departments in the state of New Jersey are a misnomer. Okay? It's an inappropriate term because in reality, here's what happens. You get a guy that volunteers, okay? The state of New Jersey used to have the firefighter EMS trust fund. Now, more times than not, what happens is this: the municipality pays for the firefighters to go for their firefighter one certification, which is the bare certification they need to ride the rig. Okay. Then after they pay for that, they pay for two other little things that most people don't know about. One's called LOSAP. And what LOSAP is it's a federally sponsored program that almost every NJ volunteer department that has more than like 20 members pays right into. And what that does, it's like a retirement thing, a disability benefit plan, all kinds of crap. The state of New Jersey has required that volunteer departments pay in to LOSAP. It's that simple. Insofar as the insurance premiums go, you have to under state law pay for workers' compensation insurance for volunteer firefighters. So just this little town that has, let's see how many residents Englishtown has. My guess is something like 5,500. Okay, it turns out less. It has less than 2,000 residents. So let me get this straight, folks. So with a population of 1,938 residents, they're paying, as we speak, $70,000 a year in $70K a year in insurance premiums for the volunteer firefighters. They're paying $20K. They paid $20K last year, so that's a one-time fee to asphalt the parking lot. God knows what they're paying for heating and cooling in the firehouse. And all this, though, all of this, when you have Manalapan Fire Company number 2 less than a mile away. How insane is this, folks? NJ Diver, when did that start? Well, since the 90s, the volunteer firefighters' cry in Trenton has been getting louder and louder. And that goes without saying that one of your favorite organizations, NJ Diver, the NJLOM, is a strong proponent of volunteer firefighters, which usually lands them in the wrath of the FMBA, the State Professional Firefighters Union. But I'm not against volunteer firefighters, folks. I'm really not. I think it's a wonderful idea. Me and Gunnison, we had a little bit of a spat before, not a spat, a disagreement about volunteer police officers, which a lot of states have. But the thing is don't sell me a turd and tell me it's gold. Okay? And that's exactly what's going on here, folks. Englishtown officials have constantly tried to use scare tactics to make the local populace feel that they need this grossly inflated fire department and these road pirate cops. And the truth of the matter is, things can be done a lot better. Things can be done a lot better and a lot more efficient. But little towns like Englishtown are sinking the state of New Jersey. They're dead weight on the state in their current operating form. That's true, NJ Diver, equipment and maintenance on vehicles and everything else. And these are the things that the average NJ taxpayer doesn't know about. People go to work, folks, every day, and they pay their property taxes. They come home, and they don't think twice about it, and they don't look twice about it. They don't look twice at it. All right, but in the case of Englishtown, things can only be hidden so much when you have a town that's that's a little less than a square mile and has 2,000 residents. All right. I mean, this fire district, which is costing the people almost $1 million, has to be costing the average taxpayer at least $900. At least $900 a year. For what? Really, for what? Okay. I mean, you know what? I don't want to beat the drum with the term municipal consolidation and this and that because I know people are going to resist it. But at this point, what do they have to lose? Okay, I'd like to see how much more money it would cost the Englishtown taxpayer, the average taxpayer, if Manalapan guzzled up Englishtown. It can't be much. Think about it. They're already paying for a $3 million police budget. Okay, they're paying $1 million or almost $1 million fire department budget. Okay, they already pay for their kids to attend Manalapan schools. They don't have their own school district. I mean, I wonder how many people's retarded brothers and first cousins are serving on their public works department. That's going to be the next thing me and Gunnison figure out on the side. Now, do you people? I want to get kind of a general consensus here. Do you people feed in or believe the public safety argument in cases like Englishtown? Green Leader brought up a very valid point before. Green Leader brought up the point about how slow response time is out in Folsom, New Jersey, after they dissolved the volunteer department. And that's a valid point. That's because Folsom is a rural area. It has a lot of back roads, a lot of wooded areas. And now they have to wait for people to come in towns like Hamilton, probably Corbin or Buna. And it's not a good idea out there. But in the case like Englishtown, where you just have this tract of land, not to sound too emphatic, that's what? Less than a square mile. Insurance premiums go. NJ Diver, it's funny you mentioned that. I was at a family function not too long ago, and we were talking about Burlington County. Right now, in Burlington County, there's 3 or 4 towns. I think there's 3 and part of another one that all share the same zip code. Mount Holly, East Hampton, West Hampton, and a teeny bit of Southampton all share the zip code 08060. Well, that's fine and well, but if you live in East Hampton or parts of Southampton, it's farmland. It's all farmland. You live in Mount Holly, you're in the hood. You're in the middle of the ghetto. So, in most areas, at least in Mount Holly, at downtown. Well, with that being said, why should a West Hampton or an East Hampton taxpayer who lives in a bucolic area in a nice, decent area have to pay through the roof for home insurance, fire insurance, because Mount Holly is dragging them down? NJ Diver lives, or he's called in the past, he lives somewhere in Monmouth County. I believe somewhere in Tinnon Falls area. I'm not sure. But the point that I raise, and I bring that up, is Tinnon Falls shares a zip code with Edentown. And Edentown, and I think parts of Asbury Park too. I'm not totally sure about that. But it's a difference between a suburb versus city. And Tinnon Falls area is where my mother lived for a long time, and it's suburban. But there's 5 towns that share the zip code. See, that's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. That's the other thing too I wanted to bring up with Green Leader. When it comes to fire districts and police departments, the one thing that they have in common is this: they need to be dispatched, and they go where they're dispatched. So right now, if there's an emergency situation in the middle of Manalapan, and it's a 2 or 3 alarm fire, which rarely happens, but it happens enough. Well, then Englishtown's going to send their fire truck over there, and vice versa. It's called mutual aid, which I don't have a problem with either. But why, in God's name, are we maintaining a second-rate fire department when we have a great one right over in Manalapan? Manalapan has at least 6 to 8 engines. Englishtown has 3 at the very most. Okay, it's duplicity of services, folks. All right, the entire concept of Englishtown was great way back when. It was great to know your police chief. It was great to know your mayor. It was great to have this open door policy. But the only thing that it's evolved to, and the only thing that it's led to, is a bastion of corruption. Okay, because when you don't necessarily agree with the establishment, and you don't agree with what the town council's doing, and you don't agree with the police department's doing, it makes it easier for the system to gang up on you. Okay, if I lived right now in Englishtown, New Jersey, and I went to a fire commissioner's meeting, and I said something that they didn't like or something that was provocative, and I have a habit of saying provocative things, well, then you can bet your butt that the next day or within the next week, I'd be pulled over in Englishtown for any little thing, like a seatbelt violation or my tail lights out, whatever they could muster up, you know? And that's the problem, folks. Okay. I mean, but in the same token, I think that Englishtown taxpayers have to elect more fire commissioners who are independent and they're pro abolition of the fire district. You know, MJ Diver, retaliation is nothing new, especially the smaller the town gets, the worse they become at retaliation. When I ran for elected office way back when in central New Jersey, and I started exposing a lot of little things that nobody wanted to hear, the next thing that happened was I started getting pulled over, and then I started being harassed on the internet. Okay, I understand the concept. You don't bite the hand that feeds you. But in the case of a guy like Peter Cook, who's the quadruple dipper in Englishtown, it's enough's enough. Okay, this guy's police chief, fire commissioner. I mean, OEM director, the a councilwoman's husband. I mean, how much more money and how many more jobs are we going to create for these people to get well off on the backs of the taxpayers? It's sick. I mean, me and Gunnison, we went there and we saw what was going on. I mean, were things exactly like we were told that they were going to be? No, they weren't. But in the same token, this guy is a real clown. I mean, this guy had his officers literally riding around the block to make it look like they were doing work. And after they circled the block twice, they'd pull right back into police headquarters. I can only imagine with his management style what the fire companies manage like. And and I want to include another little shout out, another little tidbit of information here. Not only does Police Chief Cook hold the distinction of police chief, fire commissioner, OEM director, and being the deputy mayor or the councilwoman's husband, he's also the chairman, folks, of the board of fire commissioners. All right, he's the head honcho of the five. Something tells me that this guy's an ego like Kim Jong Un. It's just the feeling that I get at first sight. But when he's chairman, he can dictate the minutes of the commission. He can dictate everything with the Board of Fire Commissioners. So my idea is I want to go to a fire commissioners meeting. I want to see the types of issues that are discussed, the types of contracts and sweetheart deals that are being rewarded. And then I'm going to do my own investigative journalism. And I'm going to see how many of these people are engaging in conflicts of interest and improprieties. I mean, I'm already working on an ethics complaint, but I feel that it could be a lot sweeter and a lot juicier than what it already is. You know, I get it. The acronym KISS, KISS, keep it simple, stupid. But in the same token, I refuse to believe that people are too simple to understand the conflicts of interest that are going on around them in the state of New Jersey. I mean, right now, let's use Atlantic County for an example, because Atlantic County is where my good friend Green Leader's from. Atlantic County on the county level, it's arguably the best set up county in the state of New Jersey. And I don't say that out of thin air. I say that for a reason. Okay. You have a freeholder board that is geographically allocated into districts. You have a separately elected county executive. Atlantic County is full of checks and balances. Now, if you go to a county like Monmouth, And a town like Englishtown in particular, there are no checks and balances, folks. One hand is washing the other, and one leg is usually wrapped around the other leg. You know something, Green Leader and NJ Diver? That's exactly what I was saying to Gunnison tonight. I mean, we need to go to one of these fire commission meetings. We need to make it known that the general public, they're not going to stand for the type of crap that's going on in Englishtown. And we need to kind of zoom in on a fire district. I mean, this fire district is a hoax, you know? I mean, the next thing that I'm going to find out is whether or not the Englishtown Fire District has paid employees. I'll bet you right now that they have at least 3 or 4 people, other than the fire commissioners, that are getting a nice stipend, if not a part-time salary. NJ Diver, I'm not sure if you were here originally, but in the state of New Jersey, a fire district is the little cousin of public taxing entities. Like if you look at your property tax bill, you're going to get your municipal tax, which is usually about 20%, maybe a little bit less in Tidden Falls, Monmouth County area. Then you're going to get your school tax, sometimes 1, sometimes 3, depending if you have a regional high school, which most parts in the state do. And Tidden Falls has it, Aldridge has it, but it's few and far between. There's something like 71 fire districts in the state. And one of them, the smallest one, is Englishtown. That means that they can levy a tax on you. They're elected board members. They're a public entity just as much as a school board is or a town council is. I mean, the minutes are subject to Oprah. The budget is subject to Oprah. And, I want to go to one of these meetings. I want to see the self-anointed leader of Kim Jong Peter Cook presiding over one of the Englishtown fire meetings. NJ Diver, from everything that I've seen, I have a feeling that the Bill of Rights is interpreted very limited in Englishtown, New Jersey. It kind of reminds me of Rambo Part 1. You've ever seen Rambo First Blood? He's trying to go into town and they arrest him because he's in dirty clothes and he has long hair and he looks suspicious. I'm guessing right now that that's exactly how Englishtown is ran. I mean, they're a weird bunch over there, folks. I'm not gonna speculate right now that I don't feel that the Englishtown Police Department should be dissolved, because I do. I think it's a gross waste of taxpayers' money. But there's a big but. And I've said it once, and Gunnison's tired of hearing it, and I'm tired of saying it. But as long as Englishtown is its own town, it should have its own capacity to enforce its laws and its ordinances. And the minute that you say that you're your own town, but you're relying on another town to provide law enforcement services, you've lacked your ability to enforce your ordinances. You really have. In the case of a fire district, what I would like to know is this. When they have that one firehouse open, all right, folks, year-round, 24/7, 365. And needlessly, because you have another, because Manalapan's is right down the road. Now, are they going to hold their board meetings right in the firehouse? Because if so, that raises another issue too. Because I'll bet you right now that they're going to look, if they can, to exclude people on the basis that it's a restricted or emergency area. I mean, not every firehouse is set up where you can have weddings upstairs and you have this grand reception area. Some firehouses, the space is very limited. I do want to kind of take more time this weekend and dissect the Englishtown fire budget, because to me, and from my point of view, that's where the corruption's at. That's exactly where the corruption's at. Now, I'm not saying that there's not corruption in the police department, because there damn well is. But when it comes to stuff like fire districts and things like that, it's a different type of corruption. It's one that we're not as well acclimated to. Now, here's what I'm going to do, folks. Right now, I'm going to go offline. I'm going to take a 5-minute break. When I come back, I'm going to talk about how the Englishtown Police Department kind of profiteered or scammed the general public with the military equipment acquisition program that's been going on from the Department of Defense. I'll come back, I think, at around 8:30.